Hello everyone! Thank you for visiting our channel. Have you ever experienced such like stories? James and Caitlin had been married for 6 years. For the past 2 years, the husband had devoted himself entirely to his career, striving for great heights because he dreamt of building his own house. Currently, they both lived and worked in a small apartment in the city. However, due to the husband's intense focus on work in recent years, the balance in their relationship with Caitlin had shifted somewhat. The former passion between the spouses was no longer present, and at times, the husband felt like they were living like mere neighbors. Whenever Caitlin tried to spice up their personal life, James was too preoccupied. And when he finally recognized the problem, Caitlin was less receptive. One day, James was informed at work that he would soon be traveling frequently for business, with the first trip scheduled in just a few weeks. The news made him happy because it meant that his superiors trusted him more, and he also remembered his one and only trip about a year ago. On that occasion, his wife had missed him so much that their relationship had rekindled, at least for a while. Perhaps it would work this time too. Several weeks passed, and James bid farewell to his wife and left. At that moment, she looked very sad, which flattered him a little because it meant that all was not lost. However, in reality, Caitlin was not thinking much about her marriage at that moment. She was already fed up with everything, and all she could think of was how to entertain herself during the upcoming week alone. As if reading her mind, her longtime friend called her, a woman who had recently divorced and begun a seemingly new life. "Hey, Caitlin, I'm organizing a party. Remember, I'm at the owner of a bar. He provided me with their premises for the evening. Come, it'll be fun. And the men I invited, you can't even imagine," her friend said on the phone and continued to talk about the guests. Caitlin, at that moment, looked at herself in the mirror. She grinned cunningly and thought it would be a good opportunity to relax and have some fun away from her dull daily routine. She decided not to tell her husband about this event. Another week passed. James returned from his work trip. His wife did seem to be in better spirits and more talkative, but the break in their communication didn't bring the result he was hoping for. His wife constantly complained of fatigue whenever he hinted at intimacy or simply turned away from him, saying she wasn't in the mood. This behavior conflicted with her overall condition. She changed her hairstyle, started wearing heels again, and seemed to radiate from within. The man even thought she might be pregnant, but further events revealed the reasons for such changes. A month later, James was again scheduled to go on a small work trip. He even packed his things in the morning and drove to work with a suitcase because he had been given an evening train ticket to another city, and he needed to start his work early the next day. But at the last minute, plans changed, and the dates of the trip were postponed for another month. The man had to return home with the same suitcase, but he found the situation even amusing. In the evening, he entered his home and saw that his wife was already putting on a coat and getting ready to leave. They met in the hallway. Beautifully curled locks, bright makeup, and a shiny dress. She usually dressed up like that only for exceptional holidays. "James, did you forget something at home?" his wife asked, looking at her watch. She definitely wasn't expecting to see him that evening. "The trip was postponed," the husband replied. "Where are you going dressed like that?" he asked, starting to suspect something. Caitlin wrapped herself tighter in her coat, thinking that her husband didn't have time to see her bold outfit. "I'm going to Ashley's birthday party with my girlfriends," she quickly replied. At that moment, several short honks of a car sounded right outside their window, as if the driver was hurrying someone up. His wife quickly unlocked her phone and started typing something. The husband felt something and quickly ran to the window, but the car was gone. He headed towards his wife, snatched her phone, and started looking at the recent messages. No message had been sent in the past few minutes. An argument broke out, and that evening his wife didn't go anywhere. James finally realized that his wife was hiding something, but he had no direct evidence of it. The car in the yard might not have had anything to do with Caitlin, but her behavior on that evening was indeed suspicious. He decided that he needed to keep an eye on his wife, and the best time to do so would be during one of her presumed business trips, when she would feel the most free. A few days later, he pretended that there had been no argument and told her over dinner that he would be going on a business trip the following week. His wife tried not to show any emotions, but James couldn't help but notice a hint of a smile on her face. At the beginning of the following week, James told his wife that he was going to the train station, but instead, he packed his things and checked into a hotel nearby. In the evening, when his wife's workday was over, James was already waiting for someone on the phone, and she started to look around, apparently trying to find her car in the parking lot. Finally, she saw it, waved to someone happily, and hung up the phone. She wouldn't have smiled like that to a taxi driver. His wife got into the car, and they drove somewhere. James followed them. To his huge surprise, the car pulled up to their home. The stranger got out of the car and opened the door for his wife. She playfully laughed and hugged the man. Inside, James was already starting to boil. How stupid did she have to be to bring her lover home? And on the same day he had left, the husband decided to wait downstairs for a while and go up to them later. If he caught them in the act, they wouldn't be able to come up with any excuses. James watched the windows of his apartment and waited. When the lights in the bedroom began to dim, he decided it was time to go up. He went to the closet in the hallway and took something out. It was there in case of possible trouble with the rowdy neighbor, but he had never used it before. Then he went into the bedroom and saw the silhouette of his wife. She was on top of the man. James suddenly turned on the lights, yelled, and turned off the music. Now the room was filled only with the screams of frightened lovers. Caitlin even fell off the bed in fear, and her companion froze in place with a look of terror on his face. "Get out of here!" James shouted at him, and the stranger seemed to catch on to what was happening and immediately obeyed the order. As he hastily grabbed his shoes in the hallway, James roughly pushed him out of the apartment. Then he turned to his wife. "This concerns you too. Get your things and get out of here, understand? You have 10 minutes. He said and went into another room to avoid doing something he might regret later. Terrified, Caitlin quickly began gathering her clothes and stuffing them into bags. Within the specified time, she was no longer at home. A few days later, James calmed down and filed for divorce. He could no longer see his future with Caitlin. As for the woman herself, on that fateful evening when she lost her home, she immediately started calling her lover. She wanted to portray her husband as a wild, unstable man and say that they had long since separated, but he still pursued her. However, the lover didn't answer the phone and then blocked her number altogether. He didn't want to repeat such adventures. In the end, Caitlin temporarily moved in with her friend, who invited her to a party where she met her future lover. And now 2 divorced women were living together. Perhaps it was even better that way. They still hadn't had enough fun, and now they had plenty of time to make up for it. At least everything was honest, and they were no longer deceiving anyone, except themselves when they went on another date that didn't end with anything serious. What do you think about this situation? Share your thoughts in the comments. And thank you for listening to the story until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and be sure to like this video, as it will help us promote the channel. All the best.